right, so Victoria, we were talking about your artwork and how it's inspired by horror movies, by scary comics and anime and video games, but it's also inspired by music. So,
Yeah.
and you're a musician yourself, you play guitar, might play other instruments, but you're just a musician at heart. Can you tell us how your artwork is inspired by music?
So we touched on my Orville Peck drawing, but not only do I like Orville Peck, like that slow, sad, country-ish kind of music, there's also a lot of just, I don't know, like there's My Chemical Romance. I've been a My Chemical Romance fan for ever, I think, since I first discovered them. And you know, when you're younger, you go through those emo phases. I don't think I ever left mine, I just matured into mine. So I love My Chemical Romance, and there's like I think on one of my drawings I had like Gerard Way, just in different styles of me, like just trying to do whatever I could. And I think my profile picture too, I was going to follow up with a My Chemical Romance challenge for a month, and I only got through like the first drawing, which was Revenge, off their album Revenge. So I had Gerard Way's eyes essentially. And with another drawing I have on there was inspired by Coco. And as a Hispanic, Dia de los Muertos means a lot to me. I never really got to celebrate it as they do in the movie, but I just love Hispanic culture and music and everything like that. So with Coco, you know, it's Day of the Dead. It's these skeletons. It's celebrating death, and that's kind of what Ichinen is, you know, as after a year we're saying goodbye to this, and we're not going to be sad about it. We're going to be happy about it because it's like, hey, we're proud of what we did. And that's what Unus Annus was doing too, with their kind of like slogan Memento Mori, which was remember death. It wasn't always being sad about it. It was like, let's enjoy this moment for what it is, and we'll say goodbye at the end and look back at our accomplishments, you know. So with the Coco one, I don't know, I just had that song Un Poco Loco stuck in my head, and I was like, you know what, I kind of want to draw this. So my reference for the outfit was of I can't even remember his name right now, but his name was Ernesto de la Cruz. That's
Ernesto. Okay. I was
yeah.
like trying to
I
look
was like,
it up.
what's his name? So yeah, it just, music kind of inspires you to do anything. It can make you happy, it can make you sad. And as a musician myself, a lot of the times when I pick up my guitar, I'm not playing a song that was written by somebody else. So I'm not, you know, playing, you know, always like, you know, classic rock or metal or whatever. Sometimes I want to say 90% of the time I pick up my guitar, I'm playing something that comes up off the top of my head. And I've shared a little bit of that on my personal account, but you know, you guys kind of make me want to post like original compositions onto the Ichinen account, because you know, music is a huge part of me, and it's art. It's an art form. So I definitely kind of want to do that. And not only do bands inspire me, but even just music itself, whether it's from like classical Baroque era to modern, like modern metal, like heavy metal, or just, I don't know, it ranges from everything. And I love that. I love people who are like, well, I listen to everything. And not those that say I listen to everything except country, because country music has some really good stories to it. So, you know, I appreciate those who are like, yeah, I listen to everything and I mean everything. So that's a huge part.
Yeah, and country has some amazing chord progressions too. I mean,
Definitely.
yeah, there's some amazing stuff in there. I grew up on like country, like older country, and just that what inspired my appreciation for like folk and indie music, you know, and stuff like that. And even just into metal as well, because you'll hear like certain slides or certain chords in it. You're like, wow, like this, you can connect the dots with it. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you're mentioning, you know, you want to post more about music and just certain segments, because like with art, at least on your account, it's like something a day, and that could be like a doodle. But like, how does music translate to a doodle? You know,
Yeah.
Because like for me, when I approach music, it's like it has to be like a complete process of like, here's a hook, here's a chorus, here's that part, you know, and it's hard to just get past that one segment. But I saw a clip from your account, Nick, where you're playing piano, and I was like, wow, this is very beautiful, and then there was a message behind it. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
So that song, I believe, is called Beautiful Brown Eyes. I'm not actually, I haven't actually heard that original or full song. I believe that's a simplified version specifically for practice. That's what I assume for most music anyway, because I literally have a practice book that I took out for that. Essentially, it was kind of an adults learning to play piano book that I got from my mom, because I have her keyboard. And I don't know, music is actually interesting to me because most of my experience with music, well, I've had kind of two separate lives with music, actually. It's pretty interesting. The first life was being in band in school. So I joined band in the 5th grade, playing alto saxophone. And since the 5th grade up until 12th grade, I played alto saxophone in a school band. So a lot of my experience with music is being a part of the whole sound, being a huge group, which is almost it's kind of different from making something yourself or improving or playing something solo. I've never felt a feeling quite like it, actually. And the feeling of it makes me very nostalgic and touches me. But it's just something about like, and I was section leader of the alto saxophone group in high school. So I got a lot of this where you really hone in on each individual part. And when you're a huge band, the small parts, they're humble. There's not much, it's, sometimes very simple chords that you create among just 2 or 3 instruments, or sometimes it's just a little riff that someone in the audience may never hear, but you play it for the added effect. And I love that. I love being a small part of the whole. And even though what you're playing is simple or just one part, it in itself is art and something just so artistic and inspired. And then when it all comes together, there's nothing like it, I mean, being in marching band and in competitive marching band, we got to play for people in the stands, and we had to focus a lot on, kind of connecting our sound while also moving at the same time. That was a whole thing because, you got to control your breathing and everything. But man, when you hear the final product and you're just like, you hear it all at once, then sometimes you zoom in and be like, oh, that's you, or like, hey, that's my part. And it makes you smile and it makes you connect. There's something wonderful about that I'm not sure I'll ever get back. I think that may be just a phase of my life that is behind me now, but still a part of me. I'm glad I experienced it. But the other half of music for me now is I'm starting to kind of dip into more genres. I never actually listened to music very much as a kid, which was an unpopular opinion among a band, as you can imagine. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know any of these bands. I don't even know. People say like Queen, huge band to literally anyone. I don't know. I think they made that one song that always comes on the radio. It just didn't feel right. And then I can't quite remember. No, you know what? I do remember what got me into it. It was, I actually have their poster behind me, Gorillaz. Gorillaz they're an alternative band, I guess. I don't really know much about
a genre bending kind of deal.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. I've never really known what alternative means, but it's cool that what they do. So I like it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they inspired me to get into music for listening and for, hearing messages of songs and stuff like that. Probably because they are a cartoon band, and I saw the art style and I saw the characters and I was like, this is so cool. Like, this style is so neat. I love the little quirkiness of all the little guys. And also a lot of my art style is inspired by them as well, just because I'm in love with just the look of it. And then it made me listen to the music, and I'm like, wait, there's more to this. And then from Gorillaz, I kind of Well, I went a couple different places. I'm still exploring, but I've been listening to Electric Light Orchestra is a really big one for me.
Mhm.
I love 80s and like 70s era style music. Just the tone of it is so something about it, man. I'm not from that era, but it has like a nostalgic, just powerful
Good.
Yeah.
something to it, man. It flows through you. I love ELO. I have been listening to an even older band from the 50s, I think, The Fifth Dimension, and that's a totally different sound, but I love that too. And then I'm just kind of exploring. When people recommend music, I usually make it a point to listen to it, and I'm still exploring myself in that regard. So those are my two spheres basically. And to finally get to my point, I think when I played the piano piece, Beautiful Brown Eyes, as my post, that was really channeling the first one, where I was just kind of going back to my practice, very much just play over and over and over again, listen to the beat, pay attention to the chords, structured, I guess, academic version of music a little bit. And it felt good. It didn't like, even though that sounds really structured, I don't know, something about putting the effort in and then making it sound nice is really satisfying. And piano is an amazing instrument because it kind of takes like a whole band and shoves it into one instrument, because you get all the different parts, you make the chords yourself, you make the melodies yourself, you make the harmonies yourself. I'd love to be good at piano. I feel like that's an instrument that's been calling to me a little bit more, but I got to put more time into it. And I think Ichinen is a good excuse to do that for me too, if I choose to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's all about, you know, it's just whatever inspires you day to day. So I mean, if music inspires you, cool. If art inspires you, cool. But yeah, you mentioned a few times that, you know, just being a part of something bigger, like whether it's a band or just, you know, starting with something simple, you know. And I said before we started recording this, but I was inspired to play Final Fantasy VII from your artwork, just because you had Fire Emblem, you had like Nintendo characters, and just the video game influence. I can see the Gorillaz influence for sure with like the lips or the eyes that you do. So it's very interesting. But with Final Fantasy VII, you know, the music is very simple, but it's so addicting, you know, and there's just like these simple keys or these simple chords throughout each song that just like gets to you. And you think, oh, wow, like, you know, that's just that one part, you know, there's more to the song, but that one part sticks out to me. So what's to say you can't do the same, you know, through art, just have like a little doodle. And put it out there.
And I actually love that you mentioned video game music, because I haven't talked about it, but that has been the biggest musical source for me my whole life, because I played video games my whole life. I love video game music. I really, really do. And not everyone gets it. I think just because you call it video game music, suddenly they're kind of like, okay, I don't get it. And then like, that seems kind of childish. And also a lot of the time it doesn't have lyrics, and lyrics is usually what speaks out to people with music sometimes. So I love video game music, and I think it deserves every much of appreciation as a piece of art as any other music does. It is just music to me. In fact, I don't even usually like calling it video game music, because it almost sounds like it's kind of downplaying it. Like, no, it's art. It's beautiful. I love the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack, full of bangers. Just it gets the blood pumping, the battle theme, the overworld theme, soaring tunes, everything. And it's simple. It's MIDI. It's through just a couple channels on the PS1, but they made it sound like that, man. And that's what's beautiful about video game music too. They didn't have much to work with, and they've made tunes that have lasted literally decades, just as long as, you know, any classic, you know, like what people normally consider regular music on the radio or something like that. And that's just so cool to me. That stuff really inspires me too.